And we are off. We are heading to Jennifer's garden space. Her yard, you're going to see, is on a steep pitch. So that's an opportunity to play with terracing. There's actually 4 levels to this garden space we're walking into, and each one has its own feel to it, but it's all symmetrical. When they were building their home and doing the design work in her backyard, they wanted to have a garden space. And I walk into situations like this all the time where they would actually have like a dedicated space carved out in the land, but not in a way that's functional and feasible. This entire area will get ripped out. Even these stones here, we are wiping the slate clean. This garden space is only 14 foot by 8 foot. So she wanted to really expand and create a garden space that actually goes a little bit further. So we're not working within the limits of her current garden space. We're actually taking it into 2 different levels. We'll relocate all of these hydrangeas, and then we're actually putting the bottom 2 tiers of the garden space right here. They'll have a patio, they have the kitchen. They're gonna see this space from all angles of the house. So I really wanted to capture the beauty and elegance of it. We're doing 2 elements of steel and cedar tone lumber, which each terrace will have a little bit of. The first idea too that I had to get creative with is how do I create a terraced garden with pathways between them that breaks it up so every part of this garden is functional. And I came up with a zigzag pattern of a path. The pattern will start from the sidewalk there. We'll use that same paver, and it actually will weave through the garden space, come in front of it, weave through the bottom, and go back in. So it'll look like at the end of the day that this garden was built here when they installed the pathway on the side that we walked down. There's going to be 2 linear trellises framing this tree on each side. We'll have arbors connecting the steel boxes together, so there's plenty of vertical grow space. We're even popping in a couple extra round cages on the top tier and the bottom tier, so she can rotate tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, all of the beautiful vegetables that require crop rotation. She'll have plenty of vertical access for that. We're also lighting up this space. She has existing pedestals that we will match, again, to make it feel like it's really part of her landscape. There'll be pedestal lights on the entrance in the steel boxes, and then we'll do our whole routine with pathway lighting, spotlights on the trellis posts, so that way when they look out at their beautiful garden space, it will really shine bright. We are checking in on Jennifer's project. We had to hold up for a quick second since we had to wait for the steel to come in, but today's a really exciting day. We have the steel in, Corbett is welding. We're going to be installing the blue slate chip for mulch, so I'm excited to come show you. Let's go check it out. This is the steel box that Corbett just welded, the one of 4 steel boxes. With this design, we wanted to mingle and match wood with steel to give it a little different flavor, and it also helps to grade with the land. As you can see, the land is really sloped here, so it was an interesting opportunity to play around with different pathways and materials. So if you come all the way back here and you take a peek at the garden space, you can start to really see how the garden actually lays with the land. So from top to bottom, the slope is probably a 4 to 5 foot drop. So we built 2 garden spaces, one up top, one down below. Like I said, they each terrace down. So it lends itself to a really cool effect, especially when you're at the house looking out at your garden. It just kind of naturally scales down with the land. One thing I'm always keen on is in any garden design, we have to think about how to draw the bees in, and of course other pollinators and butterflies. Who doesn't love a magical garden with butterflies around it? So on each bookend of this garden space, we are plopping in dwarf butterfly bushes, which really do pull in swallowtail butterflies. And then we have Shasta daisies, which will just take up a lot of space and be very bold and beautiful. So right now the plants are in, but we have yet to put in the blue slate chip mulch, which will act as a hard rock mulch so it doesn't wash away like normal mulch would. So I'm excited to show you what this is all going to look like at night when it lights up, and it'll be so beautiful. But just to show you a little behind the scenes, you can see all the wiring that goes in play when we're setting this up. It's all buried underneath the pathway. This will all be hidden when it's all said and done. And then all the wooden boxes have what we call pathway lighting, which has a little spotlight down as you meander through the garden space. So as you can see, there is so much going on. Believe it or not, we're gonna wrap up this project pretty soon. Corbett says today, we'll see, I know his language, it's probably a couple more days. At any rate, I can't wait to bring you back in a couple months once the plants are in and I can really show off how this garden space comes to life. But in the meantime, amazing terrace sloped garden that we were building. Well, we're at the end of July and it's completely in full bloom. Things are thriving. So I'm so excited to go back and to see what's going on. So we're coming up on the garden space. Oh, and the lights just popped on. How magical was that? One massive thing we did here was to integrate in this path throughout the entire garden space. Last time we were here, we were under construction with that phase. We've gotten the blue slate chip in, the flowers are blooming, the garden is thriving. Everything is just looking so, so good. Let me show you all the cool details. Hey John, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good, good. Well, here we have the homeowner, John. This is the guy that gave me free reign to transform his yard. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Tell me your experience with the garden so far.
Well, it's been nice. We haven't had to do much with it ourselves because you've been taking care of it. It's cool. Every time we come out, there's something new to find, and we're just out here. We've been gone for a week and came back, and there's all new things since last time we were here.
One of my favorite things is the steel. This is so fun to me.
It is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It is cool.
So this will rust. It's starting to kind of rust right now, but it starts out this charcoaly gray and it weathers and then really brings on the character. So this kind of this rusty look will tie in there too. One thing that was super important for us was to not have mulch be washed away down his slopey yard. So we actually ended up with going with blue slate chip mulch, which is a heavier stone that will not budge. One of my favorite additions to any perennial bed is calamitha. It's this beautiful row of angelic white flower. It pulls in the bees, it shows off for a really long time, and the rabbits do not love it, which is always a win in my books because you never know what you're battling in nature. All right, well, cool, John, thank you so much. I'm glad we ran into each other here and I could chit chat with you about the garden. I'll be back in a week or so and, you know, keep it looking nice and tidy.
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys taking care of us.
Yeah, of course. All right, gardeners, so this is cicada season 2024. We're at the Slope Terrace Garden in year 2. So I'm excited to show you what it looks like in the second year. And we're actually gonna pop in a tomato as well. A lot of people don't like the cicadas. I think it's quite fascinating. I mean, when in life do you get to chill with an orange-eyed, beautiful little specimen like this guy? I'm trying to find a blue-eyed one. If you've seen one, let me know, because I'm pretty fascinated by this. Let me put my little friend somewhere. I put in some plants roughly about, I'd say 3 weeks ago. So I want to check in, see how things are doing, see how things are growing. And then we have one little garden peach tomato to plant. So this is sage that has come back from last season. Sage is a beautiful perennial that flowers. So I always let this hang out for the bumblebees. They love it. For now, I want to keep this in bloom to help pull in the pollinators. We're doing tomatoes on this trellis this year. It's so important to crop rotate. Anytime you have a diseased tomato plant, you never want to put another one in its place in the next following season. The steel is really beautiful. You can see how it's actually been exposed to a lot of elements over the winter, the rain, the snow, and it's really starting to build up its character. So fun fact about Corten steel is that this is a 1/4 inch thick and it actually takes 120 years for this to actually rust through. So in my line of business, I would actually call this a lifelong material. Unless we're living beyond 120 years, game on, challenge accepted. Let's do it. So we mirrored the clematis experience on these arbors with a follow-up crop because these won't bloom the whole season. So when these are done blooming, we actually have some cucumbers that are going to start to take over. And this will get covered in cucumbers this season. So when you weave a tomato through your trellis, the most important thing is not to push it through, but to pull it. So you come onto the side that you want to be on for it to go through, you grab the top of it and gently pull, it's flexible. Versus if you try to force it through, you might risk snapping off the top of that. The perennials are coming back. These are Shasta daisies and they're about ready to pop. These guys are butterfly bushes. They bloom in the fall, so they're not ready to go quite yet. So my idea is to constantly have color as it starts to pop. So first the Shastas, and then the flock will be shortly after that. This will be pretty pink cotton candy phlox. Let's go pop in this final baby and get on out. So one important detail about a tomato when you plant it is to know that any part of the main stem that gets buried will actually root out, which ultimately gives you a stronger, heftier plant. So at the bottom, you want to pinch off any of the green shoots. These are called suckers, and they always grow between the leaf and the main stem. And that prevents the plant from vining in all which directions. It pumps energy up to the top to where you want it, where the flowers are going to be set in. One thing as well, when you take a plant out of the pot, always check the roots. This isn't totally root bound, but I do want to loosen it up just a hair so that it acclimates to the soil a little bit easier. So me and my cicada buddy, we're gonna plant this tomato with some really good fertilizer. I use a little special concoction of garden tone, some azomite, a little bit of fishbone meal for phosphorus, which helps promote flowering, and of course, worm castings, because everybody needs a little worm poop in their garden. We're actually building a garden space with a custom worm area, so stay tuned for that. The soil is super easy to work with because it's a raised bed and we can control the soil. So I don't really measure. I'm more of an intuitive planter as well. I probably put in about 1 to 2 tablespoons, and it's important to mix it in with the existing soil. We've already opened up the bottoms of the roots, and then lastly, we just pop it in. If you have any leaves that are touching the soil, you can go ahead and prune those off because they're probably just gonna get a little gnarly as well. This one was already turning a little yellow, so we can do a healthy pruning. Good little press, a little love, and this garden peach tomato has a happy home. So that is year 2 in this beautiful slope terrace garden. I can't wait to see what year 3 and 4 will bring. We'll be back and show you then. In the meantime, make sure you like, subscribe, and watch along as I create these amazing garden spaces, all unique and cicada friendly.